Good day and welcome to the International Day for Women in Maritime 2026. And I'm your host, Dion Anglin with Radio Cayman. International Day for Women in Maritime is observed on May 18th every year. The day celebrates women in the industry and is intended to promote the recruitment and retention of women in the maritime sector and raise the profile of women in this field. International Day for Women in Maritime strengthens commitment to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 5, gender equality. This is how we are marking the occasion in the Cayman Islands. This panel discussion is to share more with you about our maritime sector and the role women play. A statement from Premier and Minister for Financial Services and Commerce, the Honorable Andre E. Banks, will be published today, and we will be visible on social media. In 2026, the theme for the day is, quote, From Policy to Practice, Advancing Gender Equality for Maritime Excellence, which links to the 2026-2027 World Maritime Day theme, From Policy to Practice, Powering Maritime Excellence. Women in maritime and professionals across the entire industry are encouraged to celebrate this year's theme on social media. They want to hear your stories and see your impact. So if you are in the maritime space or celebrating at all, use hashtag Women in Maritime. Focus moving beyond setting policy to implementing concrete actions that foster safe, inclusive, and diverse work environments in the shipping industry. Your contributions in the maritime sector are vital, whether you are working on a board, a vessel, in the office, at the policy level, any role you undertake in the sector, what you do matters. We are here not only to recognize and celebrate these dynamic contributions, but to acknowledge what the IMO has highlighted with this year's theme. Turn regulations into operational reality, accelerate efforts to dismantle structural barriers to equality, and drive maritime excellence through empowered women in roles such as captains, engineers, and environmental leaders. Today on our panel are Kayla Martin, Senior Manager, Business Development of Cayman Registry, a division of Cayman Maritime; Ariana Wheeler, Coast Guard Officer, Cayman Islands Coast Guard; Cherise Arman, Partner, Maples Group; Carleen Bramwell, Senior Policy Analyst, Gender, Diversity and Equality of the Ministry of Social Development and Innovation. So our first question, ladies, how are you today? Everybody's good. It's so wonderful to have you here, and thank you so much for your contributions. Our first question, should I just say, could you briefly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your role?
Carleen Bramwell, Senior Policy Advisor for Gender Diversity and Equality. My role is primarily in the gender sphere. I look at the gender equality policy, which Cayman does have one. In fact, it was one of the first ones in the Caribbean. And my unit's role is really to ensure that gender mainstreaming takes place. Coincidentally, actually, I started my first job in the public service actually happened to be with Cayman Islands Shipping Registry at the time. So I've had that sort of perspective as well, and now in the policy area.
Awesome. We'll move on to you.
Oh, yes, my name is Kayla Martin. I'm the Senior Manager of Business Development for the Cayman Islands Shipping Registry, which is a division of the Maritime Authority of the Cayman Islands. I would say that my job functions include a lot of special projects. I also do strategic development internally and externally. I also handle client relationships, marketing, and PR.
Ariana?
Hi, my name is Ariana Wheeler. I'm a Coast Guard officer. My current role at the Coast Guard, I am a coxswain. I am an EMR. I am also part of the tactical boarding team. And I also went to the Royal Britannia Naval College for the officers course.
My name is Cherise Arman. I'm a partner at the Maples Group. I co-head the asset finance team. And a part of the asset finance practice is also the practice of shipping and maritime related activities. I am a director of the Maritime Authority of the Cayman Islands.
Awesome. All incredible fields. What inspired you, ladies, to pursue a career in maritime, especially in a field that has traditionally been and, of course, continues to be more male dominated?
Well, let me just say mine was accidental, actually. Coming out of school, I had a degree in psychology, and this job happened to come up, and I was like, I had no idea what shipping entailed. But just that entry level position, I was actually doing approval of licenses for officers. So that was how I actually got my first taste of this area. But I didn't stay. Although obviously there are many roles that we'll talk
Course.
about more that I could have gone into, I guess.
Anyone else care to share how they got involved?
It was during COVID. I wanted to make a difference in my community. So I saw that the Coast Guard was recruiting for the first batch in 2021. So I applied, and it's just been a real journey since then.
Colleen's experience is actually is not unusual for particularly women in the maritime sphere and in this field. A lot of us actually happened into the space. We accidentally fell into our jobs. And it's some and we'll talk about this later on. It's because we just are not aware of what the opportunities are or what the path is to achieve, some of these career goals, right? And so I just happened to work for a senior partner when I came to Cayman who practiced in that space, and he was passionate about it, and he passed his passion on to me, and I just happened to end up in the space. It was really accidental, just like you said, Colleen.
And mine was also very random. I'd like to say it was luck. As a young Caymanian graduating from high school, going to the university college, you have to kind of decide what career you want to go into. And many of us have that natural connection to the ocean.
Yeah.
And at that age, at that time, I was highly convinced that I wanted to be a marine biologist. Because, to be honest, that's the only maritime or marine role that I was aware of. And a doctor just happened to ask me one day, while I was getting my eyes checked, what do you want to do? And I told him, I want to be a marine biologist. He's like, are you sure? And I'm like, yep, I want to play with dolphins and all those types of things. And my mother was in the room and he's like, I think you should look into the maritime industry. I had no clue what that was, never heard of it a day in my life. And thankfully, my mom was there and paying attention, and she felt like that would have been the right direction for me. So after I did my associates, I ended up applying for degrees in maritime studies and in HR. But thankfully, I went towards the maritime path. But as Sharice mentioned, it's a bit unfortunate that people aren't aware of what we do in the industry and of the career opportunities because there's so many of them and they're also very important. And yeah, that's how I got involved.
Awesome story there, Kayla. Thank you so much for sharing that. What other opportunities, what kind of job opportunities are currently available for women in maritime?
I would say that the opportunities available for women are the opportunities that are available for men. They're the same and they should be treated as such. But from my perspective, we work in flag state and there are a lot of corporate maritime roles available, but then there are also a lot of practical hands-on work that's also available. So in regards to the practical roles, you have captain, you have chief officers, crew. When you have like the half and half roles, which is corporate and practical or hands-on, you have roles such as naval engineers or marine engineers, naval architects, and then we have a lot of surveyors, right, which are the people who have to go and inspect the vessels. Then when you have corporate roles like myself and Charisse and Miss Carlene, we do the more corporate side of, handling administration and ensuring that the practical or the hands-on rules function correctly.
But since you answered my next question, I'll move on to what skills or qualifications do you think are essential for someone looking to enter the maritime sector?
I would say it depends on what area you want to go into. But I would also like to mention that the government does offer a scholarship for maritime studies, and I was actually a recipient of that in the past. And that scholarship does cover surveying, architecture, any kind of maritime related interest. So it depends on what field you want to go into, but I would suggest for anyone to just do some research, talk to people, and figure out your direction because some roles require postgraduate studies, and others require certification and technical experience.
Kayla is such a great example of taking a young Caymanian from infancy all the way through to a management position. I was actually there when Kayla graduated. She was a scholarship student at the Maritime Authority and graduated and came to start off. She started off as an intern at the Maritime Authority and has made her way through the organization up to a management level. And she's a great example for young Caymanians looking on, say, well, what pathway is it? What is it should I study? How is there really a role and is there really a clear path for me within this industry? And she's a great example of that. And I think the Maritime Authority really tries very, very hard to provide these opportunities for young people here.
The Cayman Islands Coast Guard is also recruiting at the moment, so we're looking for our next cohort 4. So you have until June 7th to put in your application. But skills, you really do need to be resilient and come in with an open mindset, because when I joined, I genuinely thought we would be doing more environmental stuff. So the first day of recruitment was a real shocker when I was in boot camp and I was like, this was not what I applied for. But yeah, you just need resilience, you need to be able-bodied and your fitness level and have a really strong sense of mind.
Want to say something, Carly?
Yes, I was just going to congratulate WISTA, the organization that I know that Charisse is a part of, because I went to one of their conferences a couple of years ago, and that sort of opened my eye to the number of roles and the areas in which people can serve. It was beautiful to see the amount of women that were there, the women that were in uniform. There were women from Africa, Ghana, etc., who were talking about the logistical side. And if we think about how things get to us and the movement of people and our Amazon packages, for example, and how does our food get here? Somebody has to coordinate all of that. Somebody has to make sure that the boat is on target and gets to where it gets to. So I think that if persons, as part of their research as well, go to look at the organization as they have a website, I know, that also will give some information in terms of just sort of opening your eyes.
Speaking of,
WISTA is the Women's International Shipping and Trading Association.
awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Speaking of someone having to do the job, can you walk us through a typical day in your job, your role? Anyway.
Every single day is different.
Yeah.
Every single day is different,
How-
but a typical day, we'd come in for whatever time that they assign us to come in. It's a 12-hour shift, and you'd launch the boat, you do all of your pre-checks, and then you check the weather, and then usually consists of either going offshore or staying inshore and doing your regular coastal checks, and then responding to emergencies. But every single day changes.
Anyone else would like to share what your role is like at work?
I'd say that my role is obviously not the same as Ariana's, but no day is the same. The work changes as the time moves on. So very interesting, but I like that. I like the challenge, and I'm not a fan of repetitive workflows, so I enjoy it.
Okay. Alrighty. What sort of challenges have you guys personally faced as a woman in maritime?
One of the personal challenges I have is trying to gain the same respect from the public that a male would automatically get. So if I roll up on a scene, some people are very receptive to having a female kind of take the lead and like assist them, while some not so much. So it is a bit difficult trying to find that balance of gaining that respect and still like trying to do your job without being belittled in a way.
That's interesting.
And that's a lot of the work that from the Gender Affairs unit, we try to continue to do in whatever the sector is, but particularly in male-dominated fields. I think that sort of unconscious bias that the public has, that persons in management have, etc. Those are the things that we have to keep chipping away at. We can have a million policies, but if the attitudes do not change and the culture does not change, people like Ariana will be discouraged and not go into those particular roles. One of the things that I've also found very helpful, I remember as an intern working in the shipping registry at the time, the fact that the gentlemen there, the persons who went and did the surveys and so forth, they would actually take me out with them, and so that I could actually see and feel what it felt like to be on a ship and see the same things that they are looking at. So I think that mentorship in that regard is one of the other important things that need to happen, and to have that supportive environment within your workplace from males and females is actually quite important.
Yeah, I think the Coast Guard has done a really good job with that as well. Like they have pushed me to take on very male dominated roles, such as like being a coxswain or being a tactical boarding officer. I didn't have a choice in those matters. They were like, you're gonna go in and you're gonna do this. So it
Right.
built up my confidence.
And I bet that the decision making actually came from a man. And I have found, certainly in my career, so many of the opportunities that have been offered to me have actually been opportunities created by men.
Yes.
You know, and we're only going to succeed to create gender equality in the space if everyone participates, if we have both men and women supporting this quest for gender equality.
How can other women get involved in the maritime industry?
Apply.
Well,
I'd say apply.
I think the first thing to do is to identify where the opportunities are. Find something that you're passionate about and pursue that. The opportunities are endless. If you want to go to sea, there are opportunities there. If you want to be land-based, there are opportunities there. With technology now, there are so many opportunities within the naval architecture space, within IT. We are pursuing autonomous vessels now. You may recall a few months ago, we had a vessel that was surveying the area around the Cayman Islands, the seabed. That was a fully autonomous vessel. And so that was being controlled by someone actually not even based in the Cayman Islands. And so you're not limited anymore by opportunities that are only available on board a ship. The Cayman Islands prides itself on having a maritime heritage. But what that meant 50 years ago to our grandparents is completely different to what it means now today for us. The opportunities are endless.
And I feel with what Sharice just said, we've been known for our maritime heritage, and I think somewhere along the lines that transformed from, seafaring into more corporate functions. But I also feel like it might have got lost in translation somewhere, because I'm not sure why in this day and age that the Cayman Islands still isn't producing, the top seafarers in the world. There's so much opportunity, and I do think it comes down to a lack of awareness and a lack of education. But if you want to become a part of the maritime industry, I would implore anyone to do some research, ask the questions, reach out to any one of us and get some guidance and go for it.
Before we go, is there anything that I may not have asked you that you would like to get out there to the public?
From my perspective in policy, I would like, first of all, women to understand that the barriers, yes, there may be some, but we are to seek out the opportunities. So the scholarships that are available, the fact that we actually have women already represented in this area, those things are encouraging. So, if your female child comes and says she wants to go and be an officer, support her in that. I think that skills are not chromosome based. They're not on the X and Y chromosomes. They are about the other things that make us up, that other DNA that makes us up. So whether male or female, whatever it is that they want to pursue, the resources are there. Let them go for it.
Anyone else?
Well, I like what she just said
Right.
about it's not
Okay.
X or Y chromosomes. It's just really about having an open mind and believing that that space is still available to you regardless of your gender. Because when I started, I had no idea how to drive a boat or tie a line or do any of those things, and it was all taught. So there is the space available. You just gotta get over the mental barrier as well as seeking out the opportunities.
From a policy perspective, I think there's so much encouragement. People want to create equality within the industry. I think it really is up to us women to step forward take up the opportunities that are available to us because they are there, and there are people who want us to succeed. And I think so many times women feel that we are not able to step into the roles because we are either shy about it or we allow others to take the opportunities.
Fine, us.
But I think if I had to give a bit of advice to a young person would be to step into the opportunities. People are begging you to take them. They are there. Find them. Particularly in Cayman, it is a jurisdiction where there is so much support for the maritime sector and so much support for women in the maritime sector, particularly coming from the Maritime Authority. And take the opportunity, step into the roles. They're there.
Thank you, ladies, so much for joining us. And Carlene, Kayla, Ariana, and Sharice, I appreciate you all very much. Thank you for sharing your stories. And hopefully there's a young woman out there that's encouraged and, she's ready to take that step, right? And join you guys in the force. So, and also thank you very much to the viewers that helped us observe International Day for Women in Maritime. Thank you so much. I'm Dion Anglin. Enjoy the rest of your day.